Welcome to the Therapist HQ, your weekly pep talk for private practice pros. Let's dive in.
Everyone, welcome back to the Therapist HQ, your weekly private practice podcast. I'm Alicia, and I am so glad that you're here with me. Before we dive into today's topic, I want to do a quick little catch up on what has been happening in the past few weeks, and I feel like I can even say the past few months with therapy directories in this therapy directory world, because it has been wild, and so wild, in fact, that I wanted to do a whole podcast episode on it today. Late last week, Good Therapy sent out an email to therapists asking them to link their Google My Business profiles directly to their directory. It had step-by-step instructions and everything. And this comes on the heels of what we've been seeing with Psychology Today, where platforms like Rula and Headway have been partnering with them and asking therapists to hand over control of their Psychology Today profiles. And I had thoughts. I had a lot of thoughts, which is why we're going to be talking about this today. And here's the thing that I'm very vocal about is that I'm not anti-directory, and I'm also very hard pressed to be anti Alma, Headway, Rula. I'm very transparent in that I had signed on with Headway when I first started my practice in 2020 when the pandemic hit, because it felt like a little bit of like recession proofing. Headway was very new in 2020. And even today in 2026, that is the year we are in, I have a few lingering clients who are on Headway. So I'm still billing a couple clients through Headway. Knock on wood, I have not had any real gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching concerns with Headway. I continue to see, like I said, a couple clients through there just because I don't want to disrupt their care. They're unable to continue in any other way. And it's not broken. And so I'm not going to fix it. With all that being said, I haven't accepted a new client on Headway since the latter half of 2020. It was a very short-lived experience for me. And I say all that to say, I am not anti-directory. I am not anti-platform. I'd like to think that they're created with good intention and that they do serve a place, especially when therapists are starting their private practice. I think that everybody starts private practice in a different space with a different budget, and to keep it accessible and to keep that transition into private practice, have people have the ability to make that transition. Sometimes these platforms need to be leaned on, and sometimes we need to utilize directories. But with all of that being said, as a consumer, we can do so in a way that we are informed as a consumer, we are informed as a therapist, and as a clinician who is responsible for our clients and safety and security and all of that. So the bottom line there is we need to talk about that bottom line, because I feel like these things that have been transpiring are crossing the line a little bit. So like I said today, we're going to be breaking down exactly what's happening with directories, why these requests from directories should make you stop and pause, what the actual risks are, and most importantly, how to set appropriate boundaries that protect your practice and your data. Sound good? Let's get into it. All right, let's talk about directories and boundaries. If you're a therapist in private practice, you probably have a profile on at least one directory: Psychology Today, Good Therapy, Therapy Den, Zen Care, and so many others. And probably for good reason. When we're first starting out, directories can be an incredible source of referrals. They help clients find you if you haven't established an online presence yet, or your website isn't generating SEO yet. It's a great way to be found by clients. But here's where things get complicated. These directories are businesses, and increasingly, they're businesses backed by serious money, venture capital, private equity, you name it, which means that they're under pressure to grow, to scale, and to maximize their value. And that's where we start seeing requests like what Good Therapy just did, which is asking therapists to link their Google My Business profiles directly to the directory. Or what we're seeing with Psychology Today, this is a throwback to a few months ago, where third-party platforms are partnering with them and asking therapists to hand over control of their Psychology Today profiles. I think on the surface, these requests sound reasonable and even beneficial for the user. They promise better SEO, more visibility, more reviews in one place. But when we look closer, the biggest winner in these arrangements, it usually isn't the clinician, it's the directory or whatever company it is that's backing it. And that's what we need to talk about because your Google My Business profile and your Psychology Today profile, they're not just necessarily marketing tools, they're your marketing tools. They're assets that you have built, and handing over control or handing over this access to them has real consequences that most therapists don't fully understand until it's too late. So, today I want to walk you through exactly what's happening, why it matters, how to think about these decisions strategically, because you deserve to make these informed choices for the sake of your private practice. So, here's what's actually happening with these directories. We're going to break down the two main situations that I'm seeing right now, and there could be more situations that are happening. Please let me know in the comments. So, situation number one with Good Therapy and Google My Business. Like I said, a couple weeks ago, Good Therapy sent an email to therapists with step by step instructions on how to link your Google My Business profile to their directory. They positioned this as a benefit, saying that it would boost your SEO, increase visibility, build credibility, get you more reviews in one place, and help clients find you. And sure, theoretically, those things could happen. But here's a red flag that made me immediately concerned. Buried in their communication was a mention that they would be able to access your data and analytics, the data and analytics behind your Google My Business profile. Accessing your data and analytics is a massive problem. Situation number two is Psychology Today and these platform partnerships that they have. So, the other thing that we're seeing, and I will admit this is based on patterns that I've observed and reports from therapists and not necessarily inside data driven information, is that platforms like Rula and Headway have been partnering with Psychology Today. As part of these partnerships, they're asking therapists to hand over control of their Psychology Today profiles. And what does handing over control mean? It means that the platform, not you as the therapist, is managing your profile. And here's what appears to be happening. When clients reach out through that profile, the referrals go through the platform first and not directly to you. You are out of the loop as far as how your profile is performing, who's reaching out, and who's converting to a client. I don't know what therapists are being offered in exchange. I've had some DMs that have said it's a one time stipend of a very low amount of like $50. I'm not sure if there's additional stipends of additional money, gift cards, discounts off the platforms. I'm not sure. But whatever it is, I think it's important for the therapist to understand what they're actually giving up. A common thread throughout both of these instances that are happening is data. And I think it's really important to know like why your data matters. So let's talk first about the Google My Business profile, because this is where the data mining for me gets really concerning. When your Google My Business profile is set up correctly and running correctly, it is a gold mine of marketing data. So here's some things that your Google My Business profile could be telling you. It can tell you your overall performance metrics, which is how many people are seeing your profile and engaging with it. It can show you specific keywords and search phrases, which is the exact words that people are typing into Google to find you. It tells you detailed user behavior. So, this is whether people are calling you, clicking to your website, or getting directions right to your office. It gives you device data. Are people searching on desktop? Are they searching on mobile? It gives you timing patterns. So, what days and times are people calling? When are you getting the most website clicks? And then it also gives you geographic data, which is where are your potential clients located? And hopefully it's in the state that you're licensed in. This data is incredibly valuable because it tells you exactly how to market to your ideal client. It shows you what's working and what's not. And it helps you to make informed decisions about where to invest your time and money. So imagine handing all of that data over to a directory that probably has a bigger marketing budget than you do, and a directory that's trying to grow and scale and maximize profits. What do we think they're going to do with this detailed information about what your ideal clients are searching for, when they're searching, what motivates them to click or call, and what language resonates with them? They're going to use it to market more effectively, to refine their own strategies, to compete more successfully in the exact same space that we are trying to succeed in. And here's the kicker, they'll use collective data from hundreds of thousands of therapists to outcompete individual practitioners like you or I. So, what directories are actually gaining that they're not telling us? Beyond the data mining, there are some technical SEO benefits that directories get when you link your profile to them. So, first and foremost, these directories are getting a strengthened domain authority. So, basically, what this means is that let's say we link our Google My Business profile to a directory. We are essentially giving them a backlink, which is a really valuable tool in SEO. We'll talk more about that at a later date. Google recognizes their website, so the directory website, as a stronger authority, which means the directory ranks higher in a search result. And Google tends to recognize the website as a stronger authority because of the backlinks, because they see all of these other websites are linking back to this one website. This must be like the top of the pyramid, like the top of the food chain, like the ultimate website that has this domain authority. This is the one that we're going to push out to our users first so that our users can get a better result and a better experience using our search engine. They also are going to get better rankings for that therapist near me search, which is a very common search. One of the most used searches to find a therapist is the therapist near me. And even though many of these directories are fully virtual companies with no actual physical location, they start ranking higher for local searches when they have all these profiles linked back to them, which is kind of wild when you think about it. And third, the traffic is being funneled into these directories' ecosystem. So every link back to them means more traffic flowing into their site instead of directly into yours. And just like the backlinks, over time, this is going to position their site above your practice, my practice in the search results. So when a potential client searches therapist near me, the directory comes up first, then maybe another VC backed platform. And our practice websites, our solo practices, our small group practices, are somewhere on the bottom of the first page, best case scenario, or on page 2 or on page 3 of Google. And so, with all of this, these directories are controlling the client experience. This is such a big one because if a client clicks on the directory first, the directory controls what happens next. They control which therapists get shown, in what order, how profiles are presented, and these therapists are no longer in control of our own client acquisition and of our own client journey to finding a therapist for them. Now, back to the Psychology Today situation. Similar but different. Here's what's concerning me about that. If these platforms are partnering with Psychology Today and essentially taking over therapist profiles, we're seeing a clear pattern. The individual practitioner gets pushed further and further out of the equation. So these referrals are now going to go through the platform. The data goes to the platform, and the control now belongs to the platform. My question in reading all of this and seeing all of this is like, when does it end? Like, at what point does this end? If we hand over control of our Psychology Today profile, are they going to come for the leads that we generate through our website next? Are they going to offer us bonuses or incentives to hand control of those inquiries too? Because at the end of the day, those inquiries are reaching out because of you, because of the therapist. They are relating to your picture, your profile, your specialties. But if we're handing them over to a larger company, what are they doing with them? Where are they going? How fairly are they compensating the therapist who is then acquiring that new client? And here's the bigger, sort of existential question here. If directories start prioritizing partnerships with large platforms over the individual practitioners and small group practices, where does that leave directories in the next year or two? Will they even be viable for independent practitioners, therapists that are just starting out in small practices? I don't know the answer to that, unfortunately. But to me, this pattern feels a little bit concerning. Here's what I want you to understand, these directories are businesses. They're not neutral platforms, just trying to help therapists and clients connect. They have business goals, growth targets, and increasingly investors to answer to. That doesn't make them evil, but it does mean their interests and your interests may not always align. So when a directory asks you to link your Google My Business profile or hand over control of your Psychology Today profile, they're not doing it primarily for your benefit. They're doing it for their benefit, and you need to make a decision with that understanding in mind. So now that we understand what's happening and why it matters, let's talk about what you actually can do about it. Because I don't want you to just leave feeling anxious or overwhelmed or like we're losing all control as a therapist with our own solo or small group practice. I want to give you concrete actions you can take to protect your practice. Tip number one, first and foremost, never give up control of your profiles. This is the big one. Your Google My Business profile and your directory profile and your website are yours. You built them, you maintain them, they represent your brand. If a directory or platform asks you to link profiles in a way that gives them administrative access or control, the answer should be no, full stop. If a platform offers you money or incentives to hand over your Psychology Today profile, really think hard about what you're giving up because once you hand over control, I'm guessing that getting it back can be difficult or impossible, or you might just have to start a new profile from there and hope that they scrub your old one. Number two is understanding what you're agreeing to. Before you click yes or link account or grant access to anything, read what you're actually agreeing to. And I know, terms of service are boring and long, but this really matters. Specifically, what we want to look for is what data they'll have access to, whether they can make changes to your profile, whether you can revoke access later, what they're allowed to do with your information, and who owns the client relationship that come through the platform. If the terms aren't clear, don't proceed. If you have questions, ask them directly and get answers in writing. Number three is to build your own SEO instead. This is a long game, but the control is so powerful and so valuable to have. So, remembering all of those benefits that good therapy promised, like better SEO, more visibility, more credibility, you can achieve all of that through your own marketing efforts without giving up control or data. Here's a few ways how. You want to optimize your Google My Business profile yourself. You want to keep your information current and complete. You want to post regular updates because, yes, Google My Business has a posting feature that they are really pushing lately. You want to add photos of your office, your space, yourself, answer questions in the Q&A section, and use the booking feature if it's possible to cross over to whatever booking feature you're currently using for your practice. You also want to build legitimate backlinks. Instead of linking to directories that then take your data, you want to build the backlinks that actually serve your practice. So you want to guest post on relevant blogs or podcasts, get listed in local business associations, partner with complementary practitioners such as MDs, psychiatrists, nutritionists who can link back to you. You want to create valuable content that others want to reference or even get featured in local media or publications. A really great way to start doing this is to use Haro, Haro, help a reporter out. I like to scan through Haro couple times a month, realistically, in this season of life. I used to do it a lot more when I first started my practice, but this is where you can guest write for reporters that are looking to write bigger pieces and are looking for certain experts in certain fields. You can scroll through, find ones that are within your niche, within your expertise, and offer to guest write for them. And automatically, that is a backlink back to your website. Next is creating content that ranks. Our own blog posts, videos, and resources can rank in Google search results. This takes more work and is a bit of a long game than just linking to a directory, but it does build your authority and nobody else's. Next, we want to use directories strategically and not dependently. Directories can be useful, like I said, especially early in your practice, but they should be one part of your marketing strategy and not the entire strategy. So, a few ways on how we can use them wisely in the early practice space is to have a presence on one or two major directories. Psychology Today is usually a go to for folks starting out in their private practice, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of like the private practice startup directory is Psychology Today. We want to pay for a basic listing. We don't need any of the premium features. And we want to make sure that with our Psychology Today or whatever listing that we go with, that we're driving traffic to our website or to our phone for calls or texts and not just communicating through the directory or through the directory phone number. We want all of that to link back to our forms of contact. And we want to track where our referrals are actually coming from the directory. Once we get a little bit more established in our practice, I think it's a fair time to consider whether directories are really still worth the cost. Are they generating referrals? And if they're not, be okay with dropping them or pausing them and focus our energy on marketing channels that we own and we have a bit more control over, such as our website, our email list, and our referral relationships. So, those in person, in network relationships that we have. And I think at any stage in your practice, it's really important to never make directories your only source of clients. We always want to maintain our own website, our own online presence, and we want to keep control of our client relationships. We don't want to become dependent on any single platform, especially a platform that, like I said, at the end of the day, we don't have any control over. And of course, like all of my advice reads back to auditing. Auditing our current directory agreements is also a really great thing to do. If you're already on directories, it's just a good time to check in on what kind of access you've granted for those directories. So, for instance, for Google My Business, we want to just go through and check, does anyone else have access to our account? Are we the primary account owner? Removing any connections that we don't recognize and reviewing what third party apps have access. For directory profiles, similar but different is checking the account settings, looking for any partnerships or integrations that we may have enabled, reviewing what permissions that we've granted, and just making sure that we're receiving all of our inquiries directly. And for any platform relationship, so if you work with a platform like Rula, Alma, Headway, understanding what control, if any, they have over your marketing profiles and knowing whether they're managing your directory presence and making sure that you're getting direct access to your inquiries that are coming in. And as always, just read your contract carefully. And of course, we want to know when to draw the line. I think that things can get away from us pretty quickly, especially if we're in a place in our practice where maybe we're coming from a scarcity mindset still, we're just starting out, we really don't have our footing underneath us yet. And it's something that we're really heavily working on obtaining and doing and getting. And so, with all of that being said, I'm never going to tell you to never work with a third party platform or directory. Like I said at the beginning, they all can serve a purpose at some time or season in your private practice. But what you do need to do is to have boundaries. And so here are some areas that I would recommend kind of drawing the line with them. Some red flags to watch out for sure is obviously requesting any kind of administrative access to your website, your Google My Business, your directories, or even offering to manage your directory profile for you. I think that kind of terminology comes across as them doing you a favor and improving it and upgrading it, but managing your directory profile tends to give them administrative access, which we do not want them to have. Another red flag is agreements that give them any ownership over client relationships, inability to revoke access once granted, if there's vague or unclear data usage policies, or if there's pressure tactics or limited time offers that are designed to rush you to make a decision without being able to thoroughly think about it. And of course, because I love to also complement this with some green flags that it's probably going okay for you as far as directories go. Simple directory listings where you maintain full control. Amazing. We love it. Having those optional badges or links back to the directory from your website, again, that you control. No problem. Love it. And then obviously being transparent about their pricing, their terms, the ability to leave at any time, the ability to cancel at any time, and a direct access to all of your client inquiries. Good, great, fabulous. We love it. As I've kind of sprinkled throughout all of this, we really want to be investing in the things that we own. So, my biggest piece of advice is to invest your time and energy and money into marketing assets that we actually own and hold on to at the end of the day. So, this would be our own website and domain, our email list, our Google My Business profile, our social media following, our referral relationships, our reputation in the community, and our clinical skills and specialties. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, we do not own our directory profiles. We're essentially renting space on their website. We do not own our presence on third party platforms, and we do not own the algorithms that determine our visibility in places like that. So, the more that you build what you own, the less vulnerable you are going to be in changes to directory policies, algorithm updates, or platform partnerships that don't necessarily serve your interests anymore. And I think another thing that I have learned throughout this process and sharing these things lately is the power of talking to other therapists. The amount of DMs that I've received when I share things like this is overwhelming, and a lot of people with shared experiences or people that have felt alone in navigating these emails and these changes and wanting to sort of talk to other people about what's been going on. And the moral of the story there is that simply you're not alone in this. Other therapists are navigating these same decisions and dealing with these same requests. If you must join a Facebook group, I would recommend doing other things. I understand some therapists are in rural areas and there may be smaller Facebook groups that serve their purpose. If you must, join these Facebook groups. Otherwise, talk to your colleagues, talk to other therapists in your area, share your experiences. Find other therapists in your niche or in your area on Instagram or on Facebook and reach out to them there. If a directory or platform is doing something that feels off to you, chances are other therapists have noticed it too. And there's power in collective information sharing. And if enough therapists say no to these practices that don't serve us, the companies will most likely have to adjust their approaches. Okay, so in bringing this all together, today we've talked about setting appropriate boundaries with therapy directories, specifically with what's happening with Good Therapy and Google My Business. And here's some things that I want you to remember. First and foremost, your marketing data is valuable. Your Google My Business profile gives you incredible insight into how potential clients are finding you, what they're searching for, and when they're most likely to reach out. That information belongs to you, and you should be very protective over who has access to it. Second, when directories are asking you to link accounts or grant access, the primary beneficiary is usually them and not you. They're strengthening their domain authority, improving their search rankings, and gaining access to vulnerable data, often while positioning themselves above your individual practice and search results. And third is you have more power than you think. You can say no. You can maintain control and you can build your SEO and online presence without giving up your data or control to third parties. Fourth, directories can be useful tools, especially early in your practice, but they should be just that, tools, not dependencies, not the way that clients find you, and definitely not entities that own or control your client relationships. And finally, this isn't about being anti-directory or anti-platform. It's about making informed decisions. It's about understanding what you're agreeing to, what you're giving up, and what long-term implications are for your practice. Because here's the thing. You have worked so hard to become a therapist and you're building something real and meaningful, and you deserve to have control over your business, your marketing, and your client relationships. And you definitely deserve to keep that data about how your practice is performing and not hand it over to a company that's going to use it to outcompete you. So I want to encourage you, trust your gut. If something feels off about a request from a directory or platform, sit with that, do your research, ask questions, talk to other therapists, and don't let anyone pressure you into giving up control of the assets that you have built. You are building a sustainable, ethical, private practice. That means making strategic decisions that protect your business long term, even when the short term benefits sound appealing. And I believe in you. I am cheering you on. I know this stuff can feel overwhelming, especially if business and marketing aren't your strong suits, but you're learning, you're asking the right questions, you're here listening to this podcast, which means that you're taking your practice seriously. That all matters. And I am really proud of you for that. All right. Before we wrap up, I want to tell you about a couple of resources that can help you to navigate these business challenges. If you're just starting out your private practice or you're in the early stages, feeling overwhelmed by all the business stuff, not just directory decisions, but everything from forming your PLLC to creating your intake forms to figuring out your marketing, I've got you covered. My private practice launch kit includes everything you need to start your practice from the ground up. Step-by-step instructions on business creation, all the forms and scripts you need, marketing guidance that actually works, and so much more. It's designed specifically for therapists who don't have a business background, but need clear practical guidance to get started the right way. And if you're already in practice, you may want ongoing support, education, and community. And I would love to have you in HQ, which is my private community for therapists in private practice. Inside of the HQ community, you will get monthly consultation calls where you can ask questions and get real-time support, weekly social media prompts so you do not have to figure out what to post on your own, monthly expert trainings on everything from insurance paneling to SEO to client retention, a full library of resources on all aspects of running your practice, and your own custom GPT that can help with admin tasks, marketing, writing content, and more. It's a space where you're not alone in navigating all the challenges of private practice, where you have support, resources, and other therapists who just get it. And you can find links to both the private practice launch and the HQ community in the show notes, or you can head over to my Instagram at the therapist HQ, and the link is also right there in my bio. All right, my friends, that is all I've got for you for this week. Remember, you have the right to set boundaries, even and especially with directories and platforms. Protect that data, maintain that control of your marketing assets, and build a practice that serves you and your clients without compromising your autonomy. If you found this episode helpful, I would love it if you would share it with another therapist who might need to hear it. And if you have questions or want to continue this conversation, drop me a comment or send me a message. Thanks for being here, cheering you on always, and I will see you next week.